Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Our lesson objectives are to identify similes and to complete similes. Let's start with the definition of a simile. A simile compares two things using the word like or the word as. Remember that when we compare, we tell how two things are the same. Here's an example of a simile. He swims like a fish. If an author writes, he swims like a fish, I can tell that the boy must be a very good swimmer because fish are very good swimmers. A boy and a fish are not very alike, but the author is telling one way that they are alike by using the word like. Another example of a simile is, she is as delicate as a flower. A flower is very delicate. The petals can fall off easily. If a girl is as delicate as a flower, we might think that the girl is very sensitive. Maybe her feelings get hurt very easily. Now that we have defined the word simile and looked at a couple of examples, we are going to be identifying similes in our Decodable Readers from Unit 7, Week 3. Remember to look for the word like and the word as. Those are signals that what you're reading is a simile. The first decodable reader we are going to look at is High in the Sky. And I'm going to read from this page. It says, we can see the people below. They seem as small as ants. Then we see cars go by. Pause the video if you need to and try to identify the simile on this page. The simile is, they seem as small as ants. We know it's a simile because the author is comparing people to ants, and the author is using the word as to make that comparison. And it's true, if you're very high up in the air, people can look as small as ants. The next decodable reader we're going to take a look at is It Flies. I'm going to read this page. Remember to keep an eye out for the words like or as. It was a huge machine. It had wings like a seagull, but it was not a seagull. Can you identify the simile? The simile is, it had wings like a seagull. So this plane has wings like a seagull. The author is telling us how the plane is like a seagull by using a simile. The last decodable reader that we are going to look at is called The Lights at Night. I'm going to read this page. Try to identify the simile. If you take a flight at night, you will see lots of lights below. This highway looks like a bright ribbon. The simile is, this highway looks like a bright ribbon. And if you look at the highway, it does look long and thin like a ribbon, but very bright because it's lit up with all the headlights of the cars that are driving on it. Now that we've identified similes in the decodable readers, I'm going to give you an opportunity to complete some similes on your own. Here are 8 similes, and as you can see, each simile has a blank. We're going to be completing each simile with a word from this bubble. If you need more time to try to complete each simile than what I give, just pause the video and you can have as much time as you need. The words in the bubble are ice, house, feather, penny, mouse, picture, rock, wind. So the first simile says, quiet as a, And so we want to choose something that is very quiet. And looking through this list, I think a mouse is very quiet. Mice are very, very small, and so they don't make much noise when they're running around. They can squeak, but they don't squeak very often. And so I'm going to say that the correct word to complete this simile is quiet as a mouse. I'm also going to put a check mark next to mouse so I know that I've used that word, and I'm not going to try to put it in any of the other blanks. The next simile says hard as a blank. So we need something that is very hard. Ice can be hard, but it doesn't make sense because of this word a. If it said hard as ice, that would make sense, but hard as a ice doesn't. Let's see what else on this list might be hard. How about a rock? A rock is very hard. I'm going to go ahead and put a check mark next to rock and write it into the blank. So this simile reads hard as a rock. The next simile says cold as blank. And now I'm glad we didn't use ice in the last simile because ice is definitely very cold. It's water that has frozen. So I'm going to put a check mark next to ice. I'm going to write it into the blank. And this simile now reads cold as ice. The next simile says big as a blank. So we want something that's very big. A house is very big. A feather is very small. So is a penny. A picture could be big or small. And we can't really see the wind, so I'm not sure that's the best fit for the simile. I think of all the choices that are left, house is the biggest. So I'm going to write that into the blank. And now the simile reads big as a house. The next simile says shiny as a blank. The only item left on the list that is particularly shiny is a penny. If you've ever seen a brand new penny, they are very shiny and bright. So I'm going to write penny into the blank. And the simile now reads shiny as a penny. The next simile says fast as the blank. So we're looking for something that's very fast. A feather isn't very fast. Even when it's falling, it kind of drifts very slowly. A picture usually stays in one place. It's neither fast nor slow. But the wind can be very fast. If it was not fast, we would call it a breeze. But if it's moving quickly, we call it wind. So I'm going to put a check mark next to the word wind. I'm going to write it in the blank. And now the simile reads fast as the wind. The next simile says pretty as a blank. The choices that are left are feather and picture. I think a feather is pretty, and I also think pictures are pretty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this blank. I'm going to see if I can fill in the last simile, and if I can, then whatever word is left over will be the word that fills in this blank. So the last simile reads light as a blank. And light means not very heavy, like it doesn't weigh very much. And a feather weighs hardly anything at all. It's very light. And so I think that that must be the word in the last simile. So the last simile now reads light as a feather, which means that this simile must be pretty as a picture. I'm going to read through all of the similes. These are all pretty popular similes that you might see an author use in their writing because they're very descriptive and they help you to understand how different things are similar, how different things are alike. Quiet as a mouse, hard as a rock, cold as ice, big as a house, shiny as a penny, fast as the wind, pretty as a picture, light as a feather. I hope that you enjoyed learning about similes and completing this activity with me. Now that you know about similes, you can keep an eye out for them when you're reading. That's all that I have for you today, but I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.